It's like you finally figure out the best way to shop online, right? And then suddenly, boom, some brand new app drops. It's like, wait a minute, hold on. What's going on here?
Oh, yeah, keeping up with the latest in online shopping. I mean, it really can feel like a full-time job, especially these days.
Totally, and especially in a market like South Korea where things move so fast.
Uh,
So that's what we're going to dive into today, a pretty major development.
yeah, a big one.
We're talking about Naver.
That's right. The search engine giant. They just launched a whole new shopping app.
Yep.
It's called Naver.
Oh, no, Naver Plus Store. And to get into this, we've got a really interesting article here. It's titled Honiha Fetal Fisha,
Oh, wow.
which translates to something like Dinosaur Naver's Full-Scale Shopping Declaration of Intent.
It does feel kind of like a declaration of intent, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. So that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to figure out what this new app is all about. What does it mean for the future of e-commerce in South Korea? Especially when you've got like the giant Coupang already there.
Right. Like, how does this fit into the landscape?
Exactly. So big questions for us today. What's unique about Naver's approach with this? How might it actually change the way you and I shop online? And could it really, pose a serious challenge to Coupang's dominance?
Well, those are all really great questions. So first, I think it's important to step back for a second and remember that Naver has been involved in e-commerce for quite a while now, right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, they've got their price comparison services, which a lot of people use. And then, of course, there's Smart Store LA, their really popular platform for online sellers.
Yeah, which is huge, right?
But this new app, this Naver Plus Store, this is their first dedicated standalone shopping application since the Naver Pay app came out 5 years ago.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, so this is a big deal. It shows that they're really serious about this push into e-commerce.
Yeah, I mean, the article even says that this launch basically marks their full-fledged entry as an open marketplace with their own app.
Right, because before it was kind of piecemeal. They had their fingers in all these different pies.
Yeah.
But this is like, okay, we're going all in with this.
Totally. So what is it that they're doing differently with this new app? What's the big selling point here?
Well, one of the things that Naver is really emphasizing with this is the use of AI, and specifically hyper-personalization. They call it hoeo in Korean.
Yeah, so we're talking about personalized recommendations, but like on another level.
Exactly. This isn't just your typical people who bought this also bought that kind of thing. Naver is using their own self-developed generative AI technology called HyperCLOVX, HoeX, to power these recommendations.
Okay, so break it down for me. What does it actually look like for someone browsing the app?
Okay, so imagine you're scrolling through Naver Plus Store. What the AI does is it analyzes a ton of data about different products, prices, reviews, features, all that stuff. But then it combines that with all this information about you.
Okay, so what kind of information about me are we talking about here?
It looks at your search history on Noha, your past purchase history, Embo Shuttle from Nelfort, obviously, but also things like your age, your gender, your interests that you've maybe indicated on Naver.
So they're building a pretty detailed profile of me and my shopping habits.
That's right. And all of that is used to come up with hyper-personalized product recommendations.
Excellent.
So you're seeing stuff that's tailored specifically to you based on all of this data.
Okay, that makes sense. But other shopping apps already do that to some extent. So what makes Naver's approach so different?
So here's where it gets really interesting. Naver isn't just looking at your activity within Naver shopping. They're pulling data from a much wider range of sources across their ecosystem.
Really? So like what?
Well, for example, they're incorporating data from Neverblog on Hucky. There's hundreds of millions of blog posts on there.
Yeah, Neverblog is huge.
And then there's Naver Cafe Hucky, where people have all these discussions and share information.
So are they saying they're reading my blog posts and figuring out what I need to buy?
Not exactly. It's more about analyzing the topics and themes that you're engaging with online. So let's say you've been doing a bunch of research on Naver Search Hanabor about, say, organic gardening.
Okay.
And then maybe you join a Naver Cafe about gardening and you start participating in discussions about composting and whatnot.
I'm really getting into it.
Right. And then maybe you even use Naver Maps on Achan to look up local nurseries.
Okay. I'm all in on this gardening thing.
The AI is picking up on all of this activity, and then when you go to Naver Plus Store, it might start suggesting things like gardening tools or organic fertilizer.
So even though I haven't specifically searched for those things on the shopping app, they're kind of predicting what I might be interested in based on my other online activity.
Exactly. They're calling these potential discoveries a team. And because HyperCLOVX is a generative AI, it can make these connections in a more nuanced way than traditional AI systems. It's not just looking for exact keyword matches. It's understanding the context and the intent behind your actions.
Okay, so it's like it's learning my tastes and preferences even if I haven't explicitly told it what they are.
Right. And it's also able to recommend from the entire catalog of registered products, not just similar items to your past purchases. So it's really opening up a whole new world of potential discoveries.
So it sounds like they're trying to change the way we think about online shopping. The article talks about this shift from PESIO, purposeful shopping, to DISO-chip, non-purposeful shopping, or DISO, discovery-based consumption. What exactly do those terms mean?
So duo chip purposeful shopping is basically what we're all used to. You go online with a specific goal in mind.
Like I need a new phone charger.
Exactly. It's driven by a need. You need this thing, you go find it, you buy it.
Okay, makes sense. What about this Zuck discovery-based consumption, then? How is that different?
Discovery-based consumption is more about coming across products that you weren't necessarily looking for, but that catch your interest.
Okay, so I'm just browsing and something catches my eye.
Right. It's often driven by desire or aspiration rather than immediate necessity. So maybe you see this really cool gadget that solves the problem you didn't even know you had, or a piece of clothing that you just fall in love with.
So it's more impulse-driven almost.
In a way, yeah. It's about stumbling upon something that sparks your interest and then making a purchase based on that.
So how does Naver's AI encourage that kind of discovery shopping?
Well, it all comes back to those data insights we were talking about. The AI is using all of that information about you to surface products that you might find interesting or appealing, even if you've never searched for them before.
So it's like a personal shopper almost.
Sort of, yeah. It's trying to anticipate your needs and desires and then present you with options that you might not have even considered.
That's interesting. They've also got this feature called AI Joro, AI Purchase Guide. What's that all about?
So the AI Purchase Guide basically provides you with informative content related to products.
Yeah.
So let's say you're browsing for a new coffee maker.
Okay.
The AI Purchase Guide might show you articles about different brewing methods or tips for choosing the right type of coffee beans. It's giving you more information to help you make an informed decision.
So it's not just about showing you products, it's also educating you about them.
Exactly. And that can actually lead to more discovery because you might learn about something that you didn't know before and then suddenly you're interested in buying it.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
So all of this sounds great in theory, but what about the reality? What are people actually saying about the app so far?
Well, the article does mention that some early user feedback suggests that the recommendation algorithm is still being refined.
So it's not perfect yet.
No AI is ever truly perfect, right? It's a learning process.
Yeah.
And people are saying that sometimes the recommendations aren't quite hitting the mark.
So what can you do about that?
Well, the good news is that the app does give you some control over the AI. You can go into the Yagri shopping tab, and then there's a section called Koja, personalized information, where you can provide feedback and fine-tune your preferences.
So you can kind of train the AI to better understand your tastes.
Exactly. And the level of detail you can get into is pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah. Give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you're looking at the young living category, which is like home goods and furniture. You can specify things like your preferred sleeping posture.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and then you can tell it if you have any areas of discomfort. Not Jenna, like if you tend to get back pain or anything like
I
that.
get specific.
It also asks you how many people sleep in your bed, what kind of firmness you prefer for your bed and pillows. Oh, coach. Yeah. And how many people live in your household, the makeup of your household. Like if you have kids or pets. And it even asks about your dietary and health interests.
So it's really trying to get a complete picture of you and your lifestyle.
Yeah, and all of that information is used to personalize your shopping experience even further.
So they're really going all out on this personalization thing.
Yep.
Now, the big question is, with all of this, can Navers actually take on Coupang? Could they be, competitor to block Coupang's dominance, like some of these financial reports are saying?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There's definitely a lot of buzz around Naver's potential to be a serious competitor, and their AI capabilities are definitely a big asset.
But the article points out a pretty major difference between the two companies, right? Coupang's whole thing is their incredibly fast and efficient delivery system with the shoe e-Gree rocket delivery.
Yeah, exactly. That's their bread and butter. They've invested heavily in their Griu Ganton logistics competitiveness. They've got something like 170 fulfillment centers across the country as of late 2023.
Yeah, they've really built up that infrastructure. And this year they even expanded their Ejon Dawn delivery service for groceries to Jeju Island.
Right, so they're constantly expanding and improving their logistics network, which is a huge advantage because they can control the entire process from the warehouse to your doorstep.
So when you order something from Coupang, you know you're going to get it fast, and that's a big part of their appeal.
Exactly. Now, Naver's approach is a bit different. Because they're an open marketplace, they don't have that same level of control over delivery.
Right, because it's individual sellers who are handling the shipping for the most part.
Exactly. And that makes it a lot harder to guarantee fast and reliable delivery across the board. The article even says that industry experts believe it's inherently more challenging for open marketplaces to achieve the same level of efficiency when it comes to product inventory and delivery management. Now, why it's compared to a company like Pang that manages the whole process themselves.
So that's a big hurdle for Naver to overcome.
Definitely. Now, it seems like their strategy, for now at least, is not to try and directly compete with Coupang on speed. They're not trying to offer nationwide same-day delivery for every single product.
So what are they doing instead?
Well, they're offering a more diverse range of Hagan delivery systems. They've got Hagan same-day delivery for orders placed by a certain time in the morning.
Okay.
And then there's Hagan next-day delivery for orders placed later in the day. They also offer Hagai Sunday delivery, which is pretty convenient. And then there's Ho desired delivery date, where you can choose a specific date for your delivery.
So they're giving people more options and flexibility.
Exactly, and they're not stopping there. They've also announced plans to introduce Dawn delivery and even Hago now delivery within the next year.
Wow, so they're really trying to cover all the bases.
Yeah, but the key question is how quickly they can expand the number of products that are eligible for these faster delivery options. Because at the end of the day, delivery speed is still a major factor for a lot of online shoppers.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's not just about keeping up with Coupang. Other players like 11 Race, 11s, and Hoga Curly are also investing heavily in their same-day and next-day delivery services.
Right, so it's a very competitive landscape.
It makes you wonder how sustainable all of this is. I mean, building and maintaining these huge logistics networks must be incredibly expensive.
It's no small feat. And the article does mention that most open marketplaces, with the exception of Coupang, are actually operating at a loss right now.
So they're spending a lot of money to make this happen.
Yeah, and it's a risky bet. The Tmif incident is a good example of how volatile this market can be.
Right. So it's not a guaranteed success.
No, not all.
So we've talked about the AI personalization and the delivery options.
Yeah.
Now, there's one more thing that I found really interesting in the article. It's about the price comparison feature. You know, the K price comparison feature. That used to be such a big part of the Naver shopping experience.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Well, they've actually removed that feature from the new Naver Plus Store app.
Really? That's interesting. Why would they do that?
Well, it seems like it's part of a broader strategy to keep users within their own ecosystem.
Okay, that makes sense.
So for years, Naver has basically functioned as this meta shopping mall. They've aggregated product listings from all these different platforms.
Right, so you could compare prices from Naver's Smart Store, but also from other sites like Danoahego and Anuri.com.
Exactly. You could see where you could get the best deal on a particular product.
And that was a really valuable service for a lot of shoppers.
Totally. But now with Naver Plus Store, they're trying to keep people shopping within their own platform.
Yeah.
Kind of creating a walled garden.
So it's a lock-in strategy, basically.
Exactly. They want to keep their 50 million plus paid members engaged and spending money within the Naver ecosystem.
Which makes sense from a business perspective.
Yeah.
But what about the impact on smaller e-commerce businesses?
That's a good point. The article mentions that some of these smaller sellers are worried about this change because they relied on the traffic they got from Naver's price comparison service.
Even if they had to pay fees to be included in those listings, it was still a way to reach a wider audience.
Exactly.
Yep.
And now they're worried that they're going to lose visibility.
Especially now that Naver has its own dedicated shopping app where people can buy things directly.
Right. So it's a double whammy for these smaller sellers.
Yeah, they're facing increased competition from Naver's own marketplace. And they're also losing a valuable source of traffic.
It's a tough spot for them. Now, to wrap things up, I want to touch on the overall e-commerce landscape in South Korea, because the article throws out some pretty crazy numbers.
Oh yeah, lay it on me.
So Naver's estimated total shopping transaction volume for 2023 was over 60 trillion Korean won.
Wow, that's a huge number.
That's apparently about 2.6 times bigger than the combined transaction volume of Gmarket, Gshoy 11.7, 11sg.com, SSGT, AliExpress, and Curly Noem.
So they're already a major force in the market.
And then you've got Coupang with an estimated transaction volume of around 36.92 trillion Korean won last year.
So it's a real Yibo, Coupang versus Naver showdown at the top.
It really is. But the article also talks about this idea of a future Naris. Coupang Naver, C-commerce three kingdoms. What's this C-commerce all about?
So C-commerce generally refers to the rise of Chinese e-commerce platforms in South Korea.
Okay, like AliExpress.
Exactly. And they're gaining popularity because they offer really low prices.
So it's all about the bargains.
Pretty much. So the prediction is that the future of e-commerce in South Korea is going to be this three-way battle between Coupang with its fast delivery, Naver with its AI-powered personalization, and these C-commerce platforms with their super competitive pricing.
Each player has their own unique selling point.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Totally.
Right.
Okay, so to recap what we've learned, Naver is making a big push into the e-commerce market with their new Naver Plus Store app. They're focusing on AI-driven personalization and discovery shopping. They're offering a range of delivery options to compete with Coupang. And they're trying to create a more closed ecosystem to keep users engaged.
Yeah, that's a great summary.
So thinking about all of this, how do you see your own online shopping habits evolving? Are you more drawn to the idea of AI-powered recommendations? Or are you all about speed and convenience with Coupang? Or maybe you're more price-sensitive and you're interested in checking out these e-commerce platforms?
That's a good question. I think for me personally, I'm intrigued by the potential of AI to help me discover new things that I might not have found otherwise. But I also value convenience and speed, so it'll be interesting to see how these different factors play out in my own shopping decisions.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be grappling with those same questions. I know I am. But here's a final thought to leave you with. With Naver's massive data resources and their focus on using AI to reshape the online shopping experience, could this be the beginning of a much bigger shift in how we all discover and purchase things online?
I think it's definitely a possibility. I mean, we're already seeing AI playing a bigger role in our lives, and it makes sense that it would start to influence our shopping habits as well.
Right? It could be that we're moving towards a future where shopping is less about actively searching for specific items and more about being guided towards things that we didn't even know we wanted, but that might actually be perfect for us.
That's a really fascinating idea to think about.
Totally. It'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see where this all goes.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive into Never's new shopping app.
Yeah, this was great. Always a pleasure.
And until next time, happy shopping.
Happy shopping.